Gangsters Live. And if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. I got a lot of good stuff on there and a lot of stuff coming your way. We're going to start pumping out the content. So check it out. So I want to just touch on something real quick, real fast, put this out there. So, a couple of other podcasts put out, the information about the FBI, what went on with the task forces and the difference. This is something that affected me. Back in the day, in the 70s and 80s and the 90s and even the early 2000s, on Queens Boulevard, the FBI had an office on Queens Boulevard, a whole floor of a building. That whole floor of the building was the organized crime task forces, and each mob family had a task force assigned to it. And that task force lived, breathed, ate, died, going after members of them crime families. And of course, the Gambino crime family devastated us. They put me in jail, my father in jail, John in jail. They put us all in jail. But it was all about violence. That's when the mob was violence. That's when the mob was still committing murders. That's when the mob was still feared. And every crime family had a task force assigned to them, and they all worked out on Queens Boulevard. As of, I think, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the FBI has disbanded the organized crime task forces. There's no more task forces assigned to any crime families. That wasn't going on in my day. And the reason why is because of the violence. And I know that firsthand because the feds told me that. The FBI, the conversation I had with agents, they told me it's all about violence. Once they know you perpetrated an act of violence, you're capable of an act of violence, those task forces put a bullseye on your back and went after you. When I was cooperating, there was bookmakers and Shylocks and guys that own big major vending companies and so much illegal stuff going on where they could have indicted people on RICOs, but there was no violence involved, and they passed. And they didn't do it. If there wasn't murders involved, they passed. And I know that for a fact. Now, all of a sudden, here we are in 2025, and they disbanded the organized crime task forces. They don't exist anymore. And the reason why, and there's only one reason why, is because the Mafia has become a nonviolent entity, which is fine. I mean, I don't blame them that nobody's getting killed, that they're not I don't blame them that this ain't the old days where you could put a hit on somebody. There's too much surveillance, cameras all over the place, too many confidential informants, and whoever's out there knows it. The guy next to them could be a confidential informant. Too many people are cooperating that aren't confidential informants. They get arrested, then they decide to cooperate. It's a different world out there. I don't believe there's nobody sitting in any back room plotting any hits, mob hits, or there's any mob boss going to tell somebody, listen, go clip Anthony or go clip Robert or go clip Michael Francis. I don't believe anybody's going to say that or do that because too many people are cooperating. And how are you going to do it? I mean, how could it be done? And the feds know this, and they disbanded the organized crime task force. I don't think they're going to not arrest anybody if they can. I'm sure there's going to be bookmaking cases and extortion cases, and there's going to be white collar crime cases, but there's no more task forces. Like in my day, there's no more task forces. And I'm a little jealous, tell you the truth. I'm a little peeved because I didn't have that privilege. My God, if there was no task forces when I was out there, I'd still be out there. I mean, come on. I mean, I would still be out there. So, it's just a different world out there today. And, it's really amazing that they did that they actually disbanded the organized crime task forces, like they don't even exist anymore. I mean, the guys out there are probably thrilled. They must be happy as anything. Oh, my God. What a score for them. But, it's just different times. And like I said, a lot of guys are reporting on it, but they get information, but they never lived through it. I lived through it. I mean, them task forces, that organized crime task force was on us for years until they got us. Okay, let's see what we got here. I got Robert Brown, Indiana. I can't really read what that says. Sherry Murray. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Sherry. How are you? Hope everything's okay. Francisco. Hi, Anthony. Hello, Francisco. How are you? Question. Did people in the life respect Chin's crazy act, or did they think it made him look weak? I know my old man didn't respect it. My old man thought it was my old man thought it was outrageous, and my old man actually used to say he doesn't know how his guys put up with that. He didn't understand how his own guys put up with that. I got some the guys want to know Tough Tony stories. You know, Tough Tony was a gangster. You know, I told the story about when I was a kid and I used to go up to his after-hour joint in Latique. He had this after-hour joint in Corona, and he had a crap table in there. And one night I lost, and I borrowed $800 off the house back then in the early '70s. That was a ton of money, and we had to go up there and straighten it out. My old man went up there and straightened it out, and you know they were good friends. You know, he was a gangster. He made a ton of money, well respected, and he was around a long, long time. A long, long time. Let's see. Did you ever have ties into Atlantic City? No, I never had ties, Sherry. I mean, the Philadelphia mob ran Atlantic City, lock, stock, and barrel. I mean, I went there and went in their clubs. They had a club, the Key Club. Joey Molina's guys had it. I used to go in there when I went to Atlantic City. But they ran Atlantic City. They ran Atlantic City. Here's one. BB, why did your father hate Crazy Joe? My father didn't like Crazy Joe. Tony Lee had a cousin named Sonny who grew up with Crazy Joe Gallo, who actually was Crazy Joe Gallo's co-defendant when Crazy Joe Gallo went to jail in the 60s on that state case, and he went to Attica and he hooked up with all those black guys, and that's the guys he was running around with when he got out of prison. And Sonny, Tony's cousin, was with Joe Gallo, and when he got out of prison, Tony Lee and my father wanted Joe Gallo to transfer him to them. And they had some beefs and they had some arguments, and finally he relented and he released Sonny to the Gambinos. And actually Paul Castellano, Sonny was in the first batch of guys the Gambino family straightened out when they opened up the books. So my father Tony did not like Crazy Joe, but they did like his brother Larry, and they did like his brother Kid Blast Albert. They definitely liked Larry. They got along really well with. I met Larry a couple of times before he died of cancer. Here's one from Spider. Do they make you prove that you're 100% Italian by providing the documents of your parents and stuff? No, they don't. They don't do that. I mean, maybe at one time they did, but not in my day. They didn't. They investigated it, but they didn't ask for documents. Not that anybody I know. I'm not saying they didn't, but I never saw it happen. Francesco, who was the better boss, Carlo Gambino or Genovese? Oh, Gambino was the best. The smartest guy Fat Andy knew. Here's one. I can't really read it. Oh, here's one from Vincent. Hi, Anthony. Did Fat Andy fly pigeons? No, but his guy Nicky had pigeons. Nicky Carrazza was a big pigeon guy. He had a pigeon coop in Brooklyn. My father had a pigeon coop in Brooklyn on top of his club. He had a club on top of a beer distributor right off Easter Parkway in Atlantic Avenue, and they had a pigeon coop up on top. And Nicky used to fly the pigeons. Francesco, are you going to see the Netflix document on Molino? Definitely, I'm going to see it. I want to see if it does good as Get Gotti. Let's see. I'm sure it's going to do good because the Philadelphia mob, they got a good rep. Here's one from G. Did Tough Tony do work? Most definitely. Most definitely. CV, we need some Tommy DeSimone stories. Sammy has never spoken on Tommy. Well, Sammy didn't really know that crew. I mean, Sammy came from Brooklyn. and they were in Queens and Canarsie. So Sammy really didn't know them. He didn't socialize with them. I mean, he knew them. He knew of them. Tommy was good to me. You know, I used to go out drinking with him when I was a kid. He used to take, when I was like 19, he would take me out with him. Him and this guy, Paulie G, they would take me out drinking with them. And, you know, he was good to me. He was crazy. You know, he was crazy. He was dangerous. And, you know, and at the end, it caught up to him. Caught up to him. Steve, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Anthony, were you around when Gus Farage killed the DEA agent? If so, is it true that the government harassed mob joints to pressure the mob to give him up? Definitely. I just missed him in Art to Kill. When that happened, I was in prison. But actually, I know I was in federal prison, Schuylkill, with guys that were friends with him. He got shot. When he got killed, there was a wise guy with the Gambino's son with him that got shot in the shoulder. My own man knew his father. Sally Doggs, who was a captain in the Genovese family's daughter, was good friends with him. He actually hid out in Sally Doggs' house. And yeah, they were definitely harassing everybody. They wanted him bad. Yeah, definitely. How many people did your father personally clip? Unfortunately, more than one. Quite a few. That I know of. I know of at least 7. I know of at least 7, 6 or 7. I really don't know the exact number. Dr. Rick. Anthony, do you know the name Nasty? No, I don't. I'm sorry, Rick. From Jay. In a life where respect is paramount, who was the most disrespectful guy in the mob? Wow. Who was the most disrespectful guy in the mob that disrespected? You know, guys like Tommy DeSimone, unfortunately, as much as I liked him, you know, he disrespected the mob. I mean, that's what killed him. I mean, you know, when you disrespected made guys, you know, you died back then, you know. So guys on that tier like Bobby DeSimone and Roy DeMeo respected disrespected his oath by killing randomly, being vicious the way he was. And there's a lot of different ways that you could disrespect the mob. If you're in the mob, there's a lot of different kind of ways you could disrespect it. From Daniel, did you know anything about Joey and Michael Melnish, the Purple Gang? Oh yeah, I knew Michael good. I was with Michael in Otisville. He actually hung out with my old man in Allenwood for years. He used to eat with my old man every night. I know them great. I knew him good. I never met his brother Joey, but I heard a lot about him. You know, they were mad dogs. I mean, you know, Michael was actually the last mob hit that I know of. You know, he got my son a job in the Cement Masons Union. Very feared guy. He's the guy that disrespected the mob. You want to talk about disrespect? That's why they killed him. He had no fear of wise guys, no fear whatsoever. Let's see, what do we got here? Coming in fast and furious. Bill, great stuff. I'm from the hood, same age. Do you remember Smash, aka Jimmy Keeney, a real character from the bar scene? I mean, I heard the name, but nothing comes to me off the top of my head. Francesco. Was Castellano a better boss than Gotti? I mean, two different, totally, I mean, I never dealt with Paul. Two different kind of people, totally different. One was a gangster and one was a politician. John was better for the guys. The guys earned money. John wasn't a greedy bastard like Paul. John made guys earn. John was more of a giver than a taker. You know, Paul was more of a taker. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I like the way John not behaved. I liked the way John treated guys. They had to respect him, but he made everybody earn. AB, is your cousin Gene on drugs? No, not to my knowledge. Gene doesn't take drugs. I never heard of him taking drugs. Gene's just naturally hyper and a little crazy, but he's a good kid, and no, he's not on drugs. He's always sniffing. In his last video, claimed he had a cold in warm weather. I'll ask him, but I don't. I never heard him take drugs. I never seen him take drugs. Nobody ever told me he took drugs. So I would have to say that's a no. What did your dad say about gas pipe? He got along with them. He got along with them. He got along really good with Vic Musso. They were really good friends. I mean, when my old man was in prison, Vic Musso my old man had a thing going to get his sentence repealed. And I saw Vic Musso on Crosby Boulevard, and he told me whatever my old man needs, just to come ring his bell. And he got along really good with Vic Musso. Gas pipe, he really never had any dealings with. Hold on, I've got something here. From JB, thanks for the donation. I appreciate that. If Paulette died of old age, who do you think would have been the next time? Well, if nothing happened and everything stood pat, who would have been the next time? I don't know. That's Tommy probably. Tommy Bilotti, I would say that he was going to make him the underboss. Probably Tommy Bilotti would have been the next in line, I guess. At that point, he would have been the underboss. John would have stood a captain if, none of that bullshit would have happened. I would say Tommy Bilotti. Let's see. This is, suppose you're a made guy. Can you decide to make money only in a legal way and kick up to legal money? Legal is different than illegal. When a mob guy dies, when a soldier dies, when a mob guy dies, everything that's illegal goes to the the mob family, but everything legal goes to the immediate family. So, that's I'm going to say that's up to the guys that are around you. You know what I mean? Like when you die, like what kind of guys you have around you, what kind of friends you have. I just got a donation. I don't want to pronounce this name wrong. It's Raghav. Thank you for the donation. How come Gene Gotti and Mikey Gal were not indicted on your murder case? Did Mikey Gal give up Skinny Dom as the shooter to the feds? Well, Jeannie, all he did was go bring the message to his brother John. That's all he did. He was in jail why Mikey Gal wasn't indicted is a good question. I really don't know, because Freddie was indicted and Freddie did the same exact thing Mikey did. I think they just thought Mikey was a pain in the ass and he was nuts, and they didn't want him causing a ruckus in the courtroom. But they never gave me an explanation to that, and I never even asked that. In a way, I'm glad they didn't indict Mikey. He was Tony's brother. I really don't know why they didn't. They never even told me. But I wondered that myself. Frankie, thanks for the donation. It's said that the Chin was really the most powerful. At one time he was. When Paolo Gambino died, he was definitely the most powerful, without a doubt. Eddie, I met Gene at my buddy's barbershop in Tampa before his Miami trip. Nice kid. Yeah, my cousin Gene was out in Tampa for a while. G, do you know Bobby Fingers Pacelli? Yeah, I know Bobby, but I don't really have any stories about him, but I know what you're talking about. Justin, Did I ever meet Richard Gomes from New England? No, I didn't. Sorry. Here's one. I got a donation from Rocky. Any meetup plan, Anthony? When I come to New York, I meet people if they want to meet me. When I go to Vegas, I meet people if they want to meet. If anybody wants to meet me, just go on my website and see what's on the website, or send me an email, and I'll give you my itinerary where I'm going to be traveling to when I travel, and you're more than welcome to meet me. I met when I was in Vegas. Some subscribers came and to the museum, and we all went out for lunch. So yeah, just go to my website. Vincent, I'm glad to see you live again, Anthony. Did you meet either Carlos Michello or Jimmy? No, Jimmy the Weasel? No, I never met any of them. No, I never did. That was a little before my time. Justin Mason, was Henry Hill gay? I don't think he was gay, but my old man never didn't like Henry. Didn't like Henry one bit. When we used to go visit, I'll say this again, I said it, when we used to go visit Paulie Vario and my old man in Springfield, Illinois, in the prison hospital that actually John died, we used to fly out there and visit both of them, me, Danny Cateo, and Pete Killer, Tony Lee, and they would both come down into the visiting room, and my old man used to break Paulie's balls and tell you, I told you he was gay, and Paul used to go, please, Andy, don't break my balls. He always broke his balls about Henry Hill. He did not like him. He did not like Henry. Here's another one. Did you know Mickey Domino? No. I've been out of the game for so long. I might have known people. I don't just remember their names. You know what I mean? I know so many people. I did business with so many people. I drank with so many people throughout. You got to remember, I was in the street from when I was 16 to I left New York in 05. So all those years, I met so many people in the mob. I mean, associates and wise guys. I mean, it's crazy how many people I met. The fellow again, RAGHAV, gave me another donation. Thank you very much. Hi, Anthony. Can you please do a video on the relationship between Nikki and your father? I'm sure it will be very interesting. It would be my pleasure. I'm working on something like that. I'm going to do a video on. So you got to remember, my old man's crew, all of them that became made members, all got positions in the Gambino family. Jojo became the consigliere. Nicky was the acting boss, the captain. Lenny became a captain. Skinny Dom became a captain. Ronnie One Arm. All these guys were all with Fat Andy and Tony Lee when they were kids growing up. And Fat Andy and Tony Lee proposed some of them. And then it was like a snowball effect. So yeah, I'm going to do some videos on my father's original crew, without a doubt. Here's another one I got from IL. Donation, thank you very much. Salute, Mr. Ruggiano. Tell us about your gambling operation. Right, my gambling operation. I went to jail twice for gambling. I had a sports office, but it was totally different than it is today. There was no internet. There was no offshore betting. We had apartments and we had phones and special papers, and we paid for the lines. We had a service that gave us the Vegas lines. It was a whole different world. And I'll do a video on that because it's very interesting how we did it back then compared to how you do it today. Today, it's an app. I bet football today myself. I bet games. I lost, but I made a little bet, bullshit bets, $20 parlays, nothing major. JB, a donation. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Do you think the families today still have connections with Sicily? With the Sicily families, or are they too weak to? No, the Gambinos definitely have ties in Sicily. All them Sicilians in Brooklyn, without a doubt, they have ties in Sicily. There's no doubt about it. Josh, did you spend any time in Bronzeville? Yeah, I all the time. My dad lived on Pitkin. My grandmother lived on Lincoln Avenue, right off Pitkin, in the 40s and 50s, along Nicky Nicky was a very serious guy, without a doubt. Justin, did you know Stevie Coogan? Yes, I did. My friend Stevie, my old sponsor, was really good friends with him. We did a lot of time with him. I never met them, but I know guys that were good friends with them. Trent, Tony Lee seemed like a true gangster, without a doubt. Tony was a good man. Dangerous. Sherry. Hiya, Sherry. Do you know how to speak Italian? Unfortunately, I don't, Sherry. I wish I did. Francesco, do you know any other bosses besides Molino that has been shelved? Out there now? Not to my knowledge, no. No, I don't. But I met a lot of bosses when I was in the street. You know, Vic Camuso, Joe Messina, John Gotti, Paul Castellano. You know, I met a lot of bosses, a lot of underbosses. I met a lot of captains. But today, this day and age, I really don't know who the bosses are, to tell you the truth. Let's see what we got here. Vincent, was the bar on Jamaica Avenue and Elders Lane called Joey's Mob Connect? No, not that I know of. I don't remember hearing a bar named that. No. Rodney, is it more appropriate to clip someone over a business issue or a family issue on La Costa Nostra? Is it more appropriate to clip someone over? I mean, it's not appropriate to clip anybody over anything, you know what I mean? And, you know, I know guys that clip guys over legitimate guys, like Sally Avellino he was the driver, Tony Duxter's driver, the Lucchese family. I mean, he was in the private sanitation business. He had two legitimate brothers clipped. You know, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that's appropriate. JD, is Joey Molino shelved? To my knowledge, yes, he's shelved. To my knowledge. Gee, did John Gotti Sr. personally do work? I believe he did. He was definitely in on hits. Did he pull the trigger or not? I mean, he was very capable of it. That's the same question. Let's see, hold on. Let me get some more here. Jeff Frankie, Jay, I passed by Richmond Hill recently. It changed, but still expensive. Yeah, them big houses are still there in Richmond Hill. Big houses with them big porches. Yeah, they're still there. This is from Tay Tay. You should do more with Mikey Francisco. It would be my pleasure. I would love to do more with Michael, without a doubt. This is from my man RAGHAB. Was Fat Andy a Republican or Democrat? He was neither. He was neither. He was neither. He was probably more conservative than liberal, but he was neither Republican or Democrat. And he did business with all Democrats. So, you know, the guys that were on the take, the corruption guys, were all Democrats. Meade Esposito, Tony Sadowski, they were Democrats. That's who he did business with. JD, I don't think Gotti ever pulled the trigger. I don't know. You know, he may have, he may not have, but, you know, he was definitely a killer. How many made men do you know of that were able to leave the life and not be in witness protection? You know, guys that got sick left. JoJo left the life. He got sick. Not many. Not many. I really can't think of many. No, not many. Guys, I know guys that stepped back, took a step back. Hold on, I'm getting lost here. This is from, do you know Joey Torino? Oh, come on, of course I knew Joey Torino. He was my guy. I know him. He was great friends with me. Great friends with me. You know, I spent a lot of time with Joey Torino, without a doubt. Did I spend time, Joey B, did you spend time at Knickerbocker Village? And did you know any big rigging in the electric union or window replacements? Well, Cesar Garino, he went to jail for the window replacements. So they were all in on it with Pete Gotti. I was away with a Colombo captain. I can't think of his name right. He went away on that window replacement case too. They made millions with that window replacement, the mob, millions. Getting all those contracts to put all those windows in, they made millions. Let's see what we got here. Thanks, JB, for the donation. Have you heard of my Uncle Joey the Strangler from the Rochester family? No, I'm sorry. Thanks for the donation, but I never heard of Joey the Strangler. But I know there's definitely mob guys in Rochester. There's a lot of Italian mob, Rochester, Buffalo. You know, they're no joke. There's mob guys up there that I know. That I know. Do you know any mob guys that were faithful to their wives? No. Unfortunately, no, I don't. The ones I knew personally, no. I'm sure there were. I'm sure there are. But the ones I knew personally, no. None of us were faithful to our wives. None of us. Frank J. Were there any mob guys in Kew Gardens or Forest Hills that lived there? Yeah, sure there was. Definitely. I had an apartment in Kew Gardens. I had an apartment on Metro. Matter of fact, that was the first apartment I ever had. I had an apartment on right off Lefferts Boulevard on Metropolitan Avenue in an apartment building there in the 70s. I had an apartment there. I never lived in it, but I had an apartment. My father wouldn't let me live in it, but I could go there and shack up. That was about it. Justin, was Vinny Gotti a killer? You know, Vinny was a good friend of mine. He was capable. He was capable. He was capable without a doubt. He was definitely capable. TT, 2 months sober today. Your videos helped me. Any advice for moments you struggle? Congratulations, man. 2 months is a long time to stay sober. You know, the only advice I can give you when the struggles come is you got to have a support group, man. You can't do it alone. Make meetings, get phone numbers, call them, you know, stay close to people that are in recovery. You know, feelings aren't facts. Just, you know, use them slogans. Feelings aren't facts. This too shall pass. Remember, cravings come and go. You know, if you get a craving to use, it's going to pass. Just hold on and do something. Do something. Let's see what we got here. If Joey Molina was shelved, how did he get a stand at the feast? You know, through the church, through the people that run the feast now. The mob is out of there. The mob don't run that. You don't have to go to the mob no more for stands. I think he did that for spite because he was shelved. That's what I mean. That's why there's no more organized crime task forces, because realistically, they were supposed to break his stand up with baseball bats. He was never supposed to be allowed to have a stand there. The guy was a mob boss that now has a podcast. He was never supposed to have a stand there. If the mob was for real, he would have never been at that feast. Joey Torino was not made. Did Paul Vario do any work? Paul Vario was a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous man, and his crew did a lot of work. Did he ever do any personally? I'm sure he did. Frank J. Sammy said Gene was probably better than John. Thoughts? Do you like him and think the same? You know, listen, I got along good with both of them. Jeannie was a funny bastard. I always liked Jeannie. We always got along. He was treated me well. You know, he's a gangster. He's a man's man, Jeannie. You know what I mean? He's the real thing. JB, thanks for the donation. What would happen if the Mormons knocked on the door of the Ravenite when John would have been nice to them? Of course he would have been nice to them. What were we going to do? They knocked on our doors. You know, listen, we were respectful guys. We were not bullies. Listen, we hurt each other. We didn't hurt the public. We shook, we were not disrespectful guys. I mean, as funny and crazy as that may sound, Justin, did you know any maid guys in the Cavalcanti family? No, but I knew Sam the plumber. He was the boss. He used to come to my father's restaurant in Florida. He had an apartment right across the street from where my old man had a restaurant in North Bay Village. So yeah, I knew. I was away with a couple of guys that were in that family, but I don't. This guy Jimmy, he used to work out with us, but he wasn't straightened out then. He got straightened out when he got out. But when I was in jail with him, he wasn't straightened out yet. Robert, any stories about Iggy? Yeah, that's another video I can make. I had some interactions with Iggy. He was a dangerous guy. He did work. Iggy did work. I know that for a fact. Fat Andy told me that Iggy did work. Um, Very quiet guy, not sharp, not the sharpest pencil in the box. But I had a couple of sit downs with him. One major sit down I had with him. That's a whole story for another video. Peter, great video as always, brother. Always 12 years sober. Also 12 years sober. Love all the work you're doing. The best from Canada. Thank you, bro. Thank you, Peter. Congratulations on 12 years. That's amazing. That's amazing. Justin, did you ever go to Wiggle Strip Club in Queens? I don't know. I went to a few strip clubs. That one doesn't seem ring a bell. This is from was Gas Pipe part of Vario's crew? No, Gas Pipe was not part of Vario's crew. Matter of fact, Gas Pipe and Vic Musso did not like Paulie Vario's crew, and when Paulie died, they became the boss. They dismantled Paulie Vario's crew. Bruno Fasciola, they murdered him and made out he was an informant. They murdered him and put a canary in his mouth. The guy was never an informant. They just used it as an excuse. So they dismantled. Paulie's son ran away. The only one that survived was Danny Cateo, and he thrived. How he survived, I don't know. But they did not like Paulie Vario's crew. Do I know Vinny Oceans? No, I mean I heard of him. I didn't know him personally. Brent, that was so funny on that episode of Mad TV when the clown knocked on the door of the Ravenite and Jeannie Gotti answered and gave the look of death. I'm sure it was. Was Bobby Buriello feared? Definitely. Bobby Boriello was a good guy. He was with another family. He got transferred to John. John straightened him out. He was always with John, always by John's side. Good guy. I liked him. I never had any dealings with him. I mean, outside of hello, goodbye, a couple of conversations. He was always around. He was John Jr.'s best man at his wedding. A good guy. Let's see, what do we get? Photo attached? I don't see a photo. JJ the Kid. Mr. AR, good evening, brother. I just got to be a trusted servant and do an 30-minute lead on a meeting on Zoom. I get to say tonight I have 3 years and 8 months and 15 days. Grateful, clean, and sober. Congratulations. That's how you stay clean and sober. Service. Do service. Go to meetings, get commitments, do service. CL, hi, Mr. Ruggiano, 6 months clean from I gained my weight back, but temptation is always there. Congratulations, hold on. You're in for the ride of your life. 6 months is a dangerous time. Just hold on, make meetings, get commitments. See, what do we got here? Hold on. Let's see what we got here. How many guys in the mob are able to avoid hurting or killing anyone their whole lifetime in the life? Oh, a lot of guys. Listen, not everybody's a killer. I mean, not everybody's asked to do that. I mean, that's they know who to ask and who not to ask. Some guys aren't cut out for that. Listen, made guys back in the day had to do it if they were asked to do it. But some guys are just earners. Today, nobody's ever going to get asked to do it. But back in the day, I mean, you had to be capable. That doesn't mean you did it, but you had to be capable. Gennaro, I just hit 8 years clean. I'm always playing it forward, without a doubt. Congratulations. 8 years is a miracle. One day is a miracle, never mind 8 years. Gee, what happened to Paul Rivera's son who was burned? He's out in Long Island. The last I heard, he was living out in Long Island. Here's some of Paulie's grandkids that are on Facebook and stuff. But his son's out in Long Island. The last I heard, he was out in Long Island anyway. From JB, donation. Thank you, JB. I really appreciate it. Any idea what Joe Watts is doing now that he's out? Any idea how many guys he clipped? Joe Watts clipped a lot of guys. Joe Watts got a lot of money. He's a multi-millionaire. I don't know what he's doing now. Don't forget, I've been off the street for a long time. The last time I saw Joe Watts, he was with Tough Tony Corona at this club called Rouge in Manhattan. We were hanging out together, the three of us. There's a wire on Joe Watts that he cooperated. I don't know if it's true or not. But Joe, I don't know how many guys he clipped, but he clipped a few. He clipped a few, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. Justin, did you ever meet Tony Sparaccio, who played Paulie in The Sopranos? No, I never met him. I never met him. I would have liked to meet him. He played some part, but I never met him. I never met him. The Sopranos came out when I was in jail, and they wouldn't let us watch it. We didn't have HBO when I was in federal prison. And it's funny because when The Sopranos first came out, I used to call my friend Bobby up, and he would tell me, you got to see this show. It's on Sunday nights. People are having Sopranos parties and this and that. And it was off the chain. And when I got out, a friend of mine from London, Chris, sent me as a coming home present the box set of all the Soprano seasons up to that point, and I binged out on them, and I watched every single one of them. And then when I left New York and I was living in a safe house in the Poconos, the last season came on and the last episode came on. And when the TV went blank, I thought my TV broke. And I jumped up and ran to the phone, and I called up my wife in New York, and I said, what happened at the end of the show? My TV broke. And she goes, I don't know. My TV went black too. And then we realized, like, what the hell was that all about? All right, I'm going to take one or two more, and then I'm going to call it a night. This is I can't pronounce this name. It's GPOLYA. Did you learn anything in the life that could help you run a legal business? I learned how to count. Pretty good. Did I learn anything in the life that could help me in a little legal? Yeah, definitely. I learned how to sell myself, how to sell a product, without a doubt. Definitely. This is from Luciano. Luciano, is it true the Patriarca family was involved in the Albert Anastasia murder? I never heard that. All right, I'm going to take these last three, and then we're going to call it a night. Sherry, what are your best mob movies? My best mob movies are Goodfellas, number one. I have three best mob movies, well, four. The four best mob. Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, Casino, and of course, The Godfather, because it was just a phenomenal movie, Hollywood, you know what I mean? But my three realistic best movies are Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, and Casino. This is from G. Who did your dad say was crazy? He never really said anybody was crazy, but he thought that it was crazy what the Chin did. He thought it was crazy that the guys around the Chin allowed him to do that. Like, that's what really, he couldn't understand how the members of his own family allowed someone to do that. He couldn't get past that because he didn't think it was right what he was doing. You know, walking around in bathrobes, taking medication, going in and out of psych wards. So he wasn't. He didn't think. He thought they were crazy for letting him do that. Bonnie, did you ever meet Ernie Boy? Oh yeah, of course I met Ernie Boy. He was in Allen with my old man, him and Arnold. I know him great. I know him really good. I know him for years. I know him from the '70s when I worked in crap games. I know him since we were kids. Well, he was old. He's older than me. I met him. The first time I met him was when I was 19, 18. I worked in a crap game on Hunt Hill Road in the Bronx. And him and Arnold they were young. They used to come up there with bags of money and shoot crap. Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. I'm going to be doing this moving forward, probably every Sunday night between 6 and 7. So stay tuned. Don't forget, if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Check out my Patreon. Everything is just $1 to come look. And hopefully you'll become a member. And everybody stay safe. And whoever's out there that sent me messages that are in recovery, a day at a time. And for all those who sent me donations, thank you very much.